A red Circuit City polo. Nobody left to wear it. In 2007, Circuit City fired 3,400 store employees.
There are 34,000 Circuit City employees across the United States who are going to lose their jobs this spring.
We're not safe, any of us, for having a job.
When people look at our resumes and they see Circuit City, we don't have to explain why we're no longer here.
Circuit City is done. The second largest electronics chain in the world is going out of business.
Not for performing badly, but for being paid too well. The broader wage program projected $110 million in savings. That was not the first thing they cut. It was not the last. 2 years later, all 567 stores were dark. This is sector down. Circuit City did not die of one decision. It died of three. Years before the recession, it abandoned the traffic that filled its stores. Then it cut the expertise that filled its floors. Then it spent the cash that could have carried it through. Each move looked disciplined on paper. Together, they emptied the company out. To see why, you have to remember what Circuit City actually sold. Walk inside, 1995. Rows of televisions playing the same broadcast. Tower speakers humming. A wall of car stereos glowing behind the demo counter. Camcorders under glass like jewelry. The whole room smelled like new plastic and warm electronics. And everywhere, red polos. Down the far aisle, refrigerators and washers stand in bright rows. Big purchases, the kind that put a family in the car on a Saturday. Electronics were intimidating then, expensive, technical. A television could cost a week's pay, and the box told you almost nothing, so people did not shop alone. They found somebody in a red polo, somebody who could explain the difference between two sets that looked identical. That was the product, not the television. The confidence that came with it. Demo systems filled the air with sound. The lighting was bright enough to feel like the future. A Sunday circular pulled the family in. An expert closed the sale. The boxed set rode out on a flat cart, one hand steadying it the whole way to the trunk. Circuit City had built a business around people who knew the products. Then, management looked at those people and saw a payroll line. Here is the weakness hiding inside the glory. The advantage was expensive. Expert salespeople cost money. Big stores cost money. Appliances ate floor space and delivery logistics. High-touch service is hard to scale and harder to scale cheaply. Meanwhile, the ground was moving. Best Buy leaned into self-service. Brighter aisles, open shelves, grab it yourself. E-commerce was arriving. Flat panel economics were changing faster than anyone's forecast. Extended warranty margins were thinning, and Circuit City's real estate was often the weaker corner of the intersection. This was a genuine strategic problem, not a stupid one. A version of Circuit City had to evolve, but notice the shape of the trap. The thing that made Circuit City expensive was the same thing that made Circuit City Circuit City. Cost showed up every 2 weeks in a payroll run. Value showed up nowhere. A spreadsheet could find it. Only one of those numbers is easy to cut. Fatal decision 1. Abandon the traffic. The year 2000, Circuit City walks away from major appliances, refrigerators, washers, dryers, off the floor. On paper, it was clean. Appliances were roughly 14% of sales, but nearly 20% of the selling space. Bulky, low margin, expensive to warehouse and deliver. 6 distribution centers closed, about 1,000 jobs eliminated. The math worked. The math almost always works. It just does not measure everything. Because appliances were never only revenue. A refrigerator is a purchase you plan. It puts a family in the car and walks them past the television wall on the way in. And it brings people who were not shopping for electronics into a building full of electronics. Best Buy kept appliances. Circuit City could have rebuilt the category, modernized the departments, used that traffic to sell the home electronics world growing up around it. Instead, it removed the category and gave the space to smaller boxes, higher margin, less gravity. Inside the company, this was pruning, focus, discipline. From the parking lot, it was simpler, one less reason to drive over, and it set a pattern that would repeat. When something became difficult, Circuit City removed it rather than rebuilt it. Difficult categories first, difficult payroll next. Every removal made the following quarter easier and the company smaller. They had taken away a reason to visit. 3 years later, they started taking away the people who gave customers a reason to stay. Fatal decision 2. Cut the expertise. It came in 2 waves. Wave 1, 2003. In a single day, Circuit City fires about 3,900 salespeople. Not the weakest performers, the commissioned ones, the highest paid people on the floor. In their place, roughly 2,100 hourly workers at lower cost. Projected savings, about $130 million a year. Commission had been the engine of the expert. Learn the products, sell more, earn more. Switching it off did not just change a pay structure, it changed who wanted the job and who stayed in it. The floor got cheaper. It also got newer every year after that. Wave 2. March 28, 2007. The company called it a wage management initiative. About 3,400 store associates terminated in one day, roughly 8 to 9% of a 40,000-person store workforce. The criterion was not performance, it was pay. Circuit City said these employees earned well above the market-based salary range for their roles. The company did not rank them by skill, it ranked them by price. They could reapply in about 10 weeks, at a lower wage. ABC News reported on one of them. Bobby Young, close to 20 years with the company in Virginia, making around $18 an hour. 20 years of product knowledge had become a number inside a wage band. The broader initiative projected about $110 million in savings for fiscal 2008, roughly $140 million a year after that. Those are projections for the whole wage program, not a measured price tag on 3,400 people. Circuit City was buying a forecast. The stores felt it. By the third quarter of fiscal 2008, Circuit City reported a net loss of $207.3 million. Same-store sales down 5.6%. Analysts tied the slide to thinner, less experienced staff and disorganized floors. Nobody left who could answer the hard question. That is a judgment, not a proof. But it came from the people watching the stores most closely. There was a quieter cost too. Employees could put up to 10% of their pay into company stock. Many did. Former manager Tom Wolfe described years of investing that came to nothing and said it ruined some people's lives. Fatal decision 3. Spend the cushion. Between 2003 and 2007, Circuit City spent roughly $1 billion buying back its own shares, around $20 each. This is not a moral argument about buybacks, it is an argument about options. Cash is time. Time to fix stores, time to pay vendors, time to be wrong without dying. Circuit City walked into 2008 with less of it. Then the outside world arrived. Credit markets froze, consumer spending fell, and Circuit City was unusually exposed. Roughly 75% of its sales reportedly ran through credit cards. Vendors started watching the liquidity. They wanted assurances the company could not give on terms it could accept. Hewlett-Packard was owed about $118 million, Samsung about $116 million, Sony about $60 million. Suppliers owed that much do not need a reason to stop shipping. They need a reason to keep going. Holiday merchandise became hard to secure. The shelves thinned while the display televisions kept playing. Circuit City had survived bad decisions before. What it could not survive was a crisis demanding every resource it had already spent, cut, or sent away. November 2008. The end came in stages, and each one was heavier than the last. On November 3rd, Circuit City marked 155 American stores for closure, affecting nearly 17% of its domestic workforce. As many as 7,300 people told that the building they reported to would not exist by spring. 4 days later, the cuts reached the corporate side, taking hundreds of regional and district positions from people who had given their whole working lives to the red logo. On November 10th, in a federal courthouse in the Eastern District of Virginia, Circuit City filed for Chapter 11, securing roughly $1.1 billion in financing to keep the doors open. That filing was not meant to be an ending. It was a company trying to stay alive long enough to be sold. For 2 months, that was the plan. Talks with 2 potential buyers, and then, one after the other, both sets of talks failed. On January 16, 2009, Circuit City announced the liquidation of all 567 of its American stores. Around 34,000 people would lose their jobs. On March 8, 2009, the last Circuit City in the country turned off its lights. Picture what those final weeks looked like from the inside. Those who had spent years explaining which television a family should buy were now explaining how much the floor model had been marked down. The same red polos, the same faces, standing among shelves that emptied a little further every hour, while strangers carried the store out the door in pieces. So what killed Circuit City? Not the 2007 layoffs alone, not the recession alone, not Best Buy and not Amazon. The frozen credit market and the vendors pulling back are what actually ended the company. That part is not in dispute. The real question is why a crisis that hurt every retailer in America proved fatal to this one. And the answer is what Circuit City had spent the previous 8 years doing. It abandoned the traffic. It cut the expertise. It spent the cushion. The shock did not create the weakness. It found it. And this is the part worth carrying out of the store with you. Companies almost never announce that they are deleting their own advantage. They give it a better name: efficiency, optimization, space productivity, wage management, capital return. The savings arrive first. The loss arrives later in a customer who walks in with a question and walks out without an answer. By the time anyone connects the two, the quarter has already closed and the savings have already been counted. Think about the red polo one more time. In the good years, it meant somebody knew the answer. In 2007, it meant a wage above the band. At the end, it meant a job disappearing. One red polo hanging in an empty locker after the lights go out. Circuit City did not die because it failed to cut enough. It died after years of cutting into the very things a crisis would require it to have. That is the shape we follow on Sector Down. Companies that looked permanent, taken apart by decisions that each looked reasonable on their own. If this one stayed with you, subscribe. Hit the bell so the next collapse finds you. There are more of them. More giants that trimmed, optimized, and returned value to shareholders until there was nothing left worth returning to. We will be here when the next one goes dark. Thanks for watching.